Quite an unexpected surprise for all the viewers of the Oscar award ceremony, but especially for the host Chris Rock when Will Smith reacted to a joke about his wife Jada by slapping Chris on national television. So while the media is having a party with this, I thought it would be a great opportunity to learn something about science. From the viewer's perspective, it's too easy to condemn Will Smith's actions as crazy and over the top and talk about the many possible other reactions he could have had. However, we're not here to judge, but to explain why sometimes we lose self-control and react in such an unexpected way. The emotions we experience on a daily basis are processed in our brain in a small mass of tissue called the amygdala. The amygdala sits in our brain on both sides, about 2 inches from our ears, and it takes visual and other clues from the environment in order to tell the brain if there's a reason for concern, or in other words, if there are any threats in the immediate surroundings. This part of our brain evolved as a relay center to make us react quickly in case of attacks by predators. Back then, the main stressors were rustle noises or sudden movements from other animals. Fortunately, today, we don't have to worry about a saber-toothed tiger pouncing at us, but in the modern environment, there are other situations that are interpreted as threats by this part of our brain. Usually when this happens, the amygdala sends that information to another part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex. And that part of the brain is in charge of making sense of the information and making rational decisions. In other words, the prefrontal cortex will then decide if the situation calls for fighting, flying, or playing dead. If you believe that Will Smith should be condemned for these actions, this type of reaction actually happens on a daily basis to a number of people. This is what happens in road rage or when parents get into a fight over their kids' small league games. Someone gets cut off or yells to the coach, and next the amygdala starts sending threat signals to the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex decides if it's worth a fight or just letting go. But there are situations when the amygdala just takes over and bypasses the prefrontal cortex and makes us react with extreme fear or anger to a moderate situation. This is called the amygdala hijack or an emotional hijack, a term that was coined by author Daniel Goleman in his book Emotional Intelligence. In the Will Smith-Chris Rock incident, the joke about Jada Smith may or may have not been the stressor that triggered the emotional hijack chain reaction. It may have been the feeling of embarrassment or a perception of loss of control. Certainly, biology does not justify the violent reactions of humans. It merely describes the processes that take place in our brain in these types of situations. What makes an individual more or less at risk of experiencing emotional situations or emotional reactions is still being under study. The emotional centers appear to be highly sensitized in people that have a history of past emotional pain or physical trauma. That's why if you happen to know someone who seems to be easily triggered by any situation, it is worth having a medical evaluation to determine if there is a problem in the way that emotions are being processed in the brain. We can only hope that science continues evolving in the understanding of the brain functions so we can help individuals who struggle with these kinds of problems. Until then, let's try to be tolerant to each other, and next time you feel your anger clouding your judgment, take 3 deep breaths, reassess the situation, because it may save you from a public relations nightmare. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.